This week on the Andrew Yang podcast.
I think it's a compounding effect of neglect that we've never approached mental health with the same kind of reverence that we have physical health in this country. So you have this perfect storm of us never treating the problem with any kind of serious intent. And then when you pile on top of that, this out of control technology that makes it just far too easy for people to get into their own head, get stuck in a rabbit hole and have no way and no care and no resources to get out of it. I mean, it's no wonder that it is what it is.
It is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast the executive director of the Good Life Movement and Forward Party executive committee member for the great state of Colorado, Jono Wilde. Welcome, Jono.
Nice to be here, Andrew. Thank you.
Sharp-eared consumers of this podcast will be like, Good Life Movement. That sounds familiar. I think I remember this. So a little bit of a backstory. One of the folks who worked on my campaign, who actually came up with the math hat, which is now one of his claims to fame. I don't know if you know about him. Andrew Frawley was on the podcast now. Gosh, it might have been 2 years ago or so, to talk about kicking off the Good Life Movement, which is a movement that is trying to center mental health solutions for public policy. And I was like, well, that doesn't exist? And he was like, no, it doesn't. And I looked into it and I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. Despite the fact that just about every American under the sun believes that we should be doing more on mental health, and we can go into like the stats and the rest of it. So with that as the backdrop, how did you connect with Mr. Frawley?
Yeah, so I actually discovered Frawley on your podcast.
Nice.
That episode.
Yes, did you hear that?
That same
Yes.
episode. So you're doing good work here. For sure.
Thank you. And now people are going to discover you and rediscover GLM through this, you know?
Yeah, and we're going through a bit of a renaissance, but I can start from the beginning. I found Andrew on your podcast. I was looking for more information on the mental health crisis in America because in 2022, my father had his first suicidal episode and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I was trying to learn and educate and just figure out how to help him. But then I was kind of sobered to the realization that this was a much larger epidemic in this country. And finding organizations like the Good Life Movement sort of opened my eyes to the need for not only awareness about it, but also action on the policy side.
Amen.
Yeah, hopefully. And then what really spurred my desire to action was that my father ultimately did die by suicide in 2024. February of 2024, so we're coming up on 2 years. And that was when I reached out to Frawley again, and I said, look, I now have all the personal motivation in the world to, really put some effort behind this. And my experience is that of an entrepreneur and a CEO. I've started a business. I've run another one in the past. So I thought if maybe I can try to take that energy and put it into this, maybe we can find some growth here. And the new approach that we're taking, somewhat new, what the foundation that Frawley laid for us was really positive in the sense that we know we want to do policy work. We know that it's about not just awareness, but actually passing something with teeth. But the new mission and the new focus really is on a mental health civil rights bill, where we are just going to write an omnibus bill that includes everything that has been talked about for the last 50 years in this country. We're going to cover everything from decriminalizing mental illness. So if someone has a manic episode, they're not taken to jail, which is where they are taken currently, all the way through to education with kids and veterans and everything like that. And we're calling it the Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness Act. And that's very much intentional because we want to highlight the fact that what we're fighting for are actually founding principles of this country. The idea of agency, autonomy, being able to captain your own ship and say, I'm an American and this is the life that I want to be able to live for myself. And so mental health needs to be a piece of that.
Who the heck could be against the Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness Act?
That's the other idea. Try arguing with that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I dare say that's going to be unanimous whip count, when it gets to Congress. So I'm so sorry about your father's passing. I dare say that every American at this point has a friend or family member that has been touched by mental illness. I do think those numbers are getting worse. One of the things that we believe, people, shocker. I think smartphones have something to do with the fact that mental illness is now rampant. And my friend Jonathan Haidt wrote a book about that has actually changed policy. And interestingly, Jonathan's book, The Anxious Generation, focuses on minors, on kids. And I'm friends with John. He's been on the podcast. And he said, he's like, look, I wanted to argue something inarguable. Now, and you know, when you get into adults and smartphones and social media and the algorithm and the rest of it, it's you can be like, okay, it's bad for you, bad for your brain, but you know, free country, like agency, like, you know, people can smoke, people can drink, people can do things for themselves that aren't great. So, but the general's like, but minors, you can't really make that argument. It's like, look, these are kids. So let me just focus on the kids. And I think he was smart to do so. I think he was right. The mental health stats among kids are awful, like just truly atrocious. So since you now do this professionally, if someone were just to ask you the simple question, it's like, hey, why is mental health getting worse in the United States of America? First, is it getting worse? And second, why?
Absolutely getting worse. And yeah, social media and the phones and just the ubiquity of this attention culture and the quick dopamine hits that we can get on the phone, it's all part of the problem. I think it's a compounding effect of neglect, that we've never approached mental health with the same kind of reverence that we have physical health in this country. So you have this perfect storm of us never treating the problem with any kind of serious intent. And then when you pile on top of that, this out of control technology that makes it just far too easy for people to get into their own head, get stuck in a rabbit hole and have no way and no care and no resources to get out of it. I mean, it's no wonder that it is what it is. And the leading areas of suicide in the country right now, there's two stats. It's among youth, and then it's also among older white men like my father. So you have people who are in transitional periods that are struggling with identity, right, as you're growing up, but then also when you're in the retirement age and you're trying to figure out what to do, maybe post that. Those are the two areas that we're seeing the highest spike. And I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of awareness on the front end, but then also we're giving kids, you know, kerosene and lighters, and then we're wondering why the house is burning down.
The neglect description is apt. So a few things, and like, you know, again, if you're a long time listener, you might know these things, but always been a huge believer in therapy and treatment of mental illness. I saw my first therapist when I was in 9th grade because my school assigned me to her because I seemed troubled, which, you know, I was like mopey and had hair in my face and listened to The Smiths and The Cure. And so I guess that was enough. But enjoyed it, benefited from it. Sue Denby was her name. And I do remember her saying like, hey, in my opinion, you're fine. And like, I think we can like stop seeing each other. But she gave me a hug. And I was like, oh, I don't miss this. And my brother is a clinical psychologist by training. His dissertation was on the effect of stigma on the treatment of mental illness when you talk about neglect and everyone sweeping it under the rug. So let's say neglect is column 1, smartphones is column 2, and then column 3, I'm going to suggest is that we're financially strapped and stressed. There's like a constant sense of encroaching scarcity. A lot of and, you know, in a lot of Americans day-to-day lives. And so like I think that's a real stressor, and some of those forces are objective. I'm going to throw number 4 in, and this, you know, some of you guys aren't going to like this, but you know, whatever, it's what I believe. I think the lack of religion is like a force that's making people sad. Like religion like helped comprise community and purpose and faith and belonging, and then you take that away from a lot of Americans by the numbers. Related is this general antisocialness, and these two things are, I believe, probably mutually reinforcing, where it's like, hey, I'm sad, so I stay in, so I'm lonely and isolated, so I get sadder, you know. Whereas anything that gets you out and about, interacting with people, it will probably help keep you happier, because we're social creatures. So these are some of the things that come to my mind. Well, it sounds like you and I see it similarly. I don't know if you have all these buttoned up studies and like facts and figures.
Well, yeah. So there's a handful of different elements that we're trying to consider, and that's why we're wanting to write an omnibus mental health civil rights bill. Is the idea that there are a handful of different programs and there are a handful of different organizations that are all doing good work, but it's diasporic and it's fragmented and it's siloed. We don't have data that we can share with each other. So there's a handful of different pieces that we would need to address. But one of the more interesting stats is that women in this country are twice as likely to develop depression, while men are 3 times as likely to die by suicide. So there's a disconnect there where it's not just a one-to-one of if you get this disease, then you will die by suicide, because women are having it more often, but not dying as often by suicide. So there's the element of what we're calling psychosocial support, meaning it's not just enough to have therapy and to have medication, but you need community, right? Whether it's through church or whether it's through a political party or whether it's through
poker game, whatever the heck.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah. And because
Book
we're
club.
seeing that.
Let's go through a list of things. Bowling league.
Mini putt's good. I like that.
Is mini putt like social in that way? I've seen people in cornhole leagues. That's apparently a thing.
Yeah.
Shuffleboard's apparently a thing. I discovered that recently.
Have you seen chess boxing?
Oh my gosh, I just saw like a thumbnail. I haven't looked into it.
I mean,
is it like you do a move and then you punch each other out?
So you do 1 round of boxing and then you do 1 round, another 3 minutes of chess, and then you go back and forth until someone either wins by checkmate or gets knocked out.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Imagine if you were just exceptional at chess and terrible at boxing, being like, I'm going to have to beat this guy.
Yeah.
Basketball was my sport of choice.
Okay.
When I was coming up. And it was very social. There would be 14 or 15 guys who would come together, and then you'd rotate out. And like a very busy day, you might have 3 teams of 5, but ordinarily you'd like sub in and sub out. And what was funny is I'd play basketball with some guys for years and not know their job, their last name, whether they had a family. It was just like I knew everything about their jump shot and their move set and what they wanted to do.
Yeah. You knew to push them left or push them right.
Yeah. And they knew that about me too.
Right.
And sometimes a new person would come and they didn't know. And then I would bust out my right to left crossover. Thank you, listeners. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, send them to mailbag@andrewyang.com and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you. This podcast is sponsored by ExpressVPN. How did you choose which internet service provider to use? The sad thing is, most of us didn't have much of a choice because ISPs operate a lot like monopolies in the regions that they serve. They then use this monopoly position to take advantage of customers, and yes, they even sell your data, your activities to advertisers and big tech companies, and you don't see a dime. That's why I protect my internet surfing and devices with ExpressVPN. When you use ExpressVPN, it's like a magic portal to a perfectly safe and anonymous internet. And don't take my word for it. This is the #1 VPN service according to CNET. It's used by major companies all over the world. So stop handing over your personal data to ISPs and other tech companies who then mine your activity and sell off your information. Protect yourself with a VPN I trust to keep my privacy online. Visit expressvpn.com/yang. That's expressvpn.com/yang to get 3 extra months free. Go to expressvpn.com/yang right now to learn more. The data on this stuff, I mean, any of the data that I've seen has been very clear and negative in terms of the trends.
Yeah.
The trends among kids have been markedly worse. When you talk about this other area of like high risk for suicide being retired men, it sounds like that one's like, it makes sense to me, but it's like a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
Honestly, is that a surprise to most people if you tell them that?
Yeah, I think it comes as a shock for a lot of folks. But when you consider like folks that are my dad's age, he was 67 when he died. He comes from a generation that would not talk about this stuff, even remotely. And I think we're doing better with the younger generations. They're at least aware and they're talking more about mental health, but then they're falling into these traps with social media and with the phone. So we're not setting them up for success, but they're far better off than the generations before it that were just not even acknowledge mental health. And when you look at the policy history in this country, we set up the National Institute for Mental Health in 1946 after World War II, when we started noticing, veterans are coming home and there's something going on there.
Yeah. I mean, the veteran suicide stats also terrible.
Okay, so that one is probably the most staggering. Members of our armed services, so active members of our armed services, are 10 times more likely to die by suicide than be killed in active combat.
Yeah, and it was something like 3 a day right now.
I think it's 22.
Look at that.
Like that.
I dramatically understated the stat because it's so sad.
Yeah.
I recently saw movie on Netflix, because as soon as it hits Netflix, then you're like, oh, it's free, I'll watch this. But it was the Channing Tatum movie Dog.
I haven't seen it.
It was about military vets and PTSD, and I was like, wow, this is actually a very somber portrayal, but I sense that it's actually quite realistic. So I appreciated that about it, because it's like you kind of have to confront reality. So your father was in a high risk category in part because he's of a generation where they maybe some, like, I definitely would seek therapy if I've had certain feelings. But he just would never think to.
No, and I liken it to him having discovered stage 4 cancer rather than stage 1. Right, he caught it too late, and he was able to get into therapy and he was able to get medication, but it just had metastasized to a point where, he was overtaken by it. I describe it like a parasite, and it will feed on its host and it will strengthen as the host weakens, and then ultimately it kills the host in a lot of cases. With the piece about the veterans, I think that's also important to highlight, and it's something that we're doing with the bill as well. And the focus there is, we want to highlight the fact that this is a choice that we're making in the society. Because if you look at all the money that goes into training and equipment and making sure that our soldiers are ready to go off to war, kick ass, take names, and come home, but we don't do anything for them on the back end, when the threat actually is when they're home, not when they're overseas. So we have to refocus on, when we say we support the troops, we got to start asking, how are we supporting the troops?
Again, this makes sense to me and to I'm sure the vast majority of Americans, and the polling I've seen shows that. What's the percentage of Americans who want to do more on mental health?
So it's about 88% of registered voters, which I think comes out to most registered voters, however much that is.
88 is greater than 51. So 88 seems about right to me.
Yeah. So, and it's bipartisan too. So we see 92% of Democrats, 87% of Republicans, 84% of independents. It's across the board because it doesn't discriminate.
Oh yeah. So this is going to be the most popular thing in the world as soon as it actually gets the spotlight it deserves. Forward should be embracing it at every turn, because 88% is as close to 100% as you're going to get in real life. I'm looking forward to seeing this get mainstreamed and discussed more and more. So for the folks watching and listening who are just like, wow, I'm on board. What does the path forward look like? As someone who's got some experience in this neck of the woods, the thing I think about is, get mailing lists, raise money, get press, get spokespeople. Because you think about issue-based campaigns or organizations, the one that anyone would understand if they, it's like, which of these have you been exposed to personally? Probably climate change, probably legalization of marijuana as an example. We're all exposed to versions of these campaigns. So is that the model? What are you and the team and the crew trying to build and grow?
Yeah. So first I can say, for anyone interested, you can go to goodlifemovement.org. You can see everything that we're doing there. And
join the mailing list.
Yes.
And what is your legal structure? Is it a nonprofit?
Yeah, we are a nonprofit, C3, C4.
See, by the way, guys, I actually knew that because I've donated.
Yeah.
And I got a tax deduction. So if you go to goodlifemovement.org and then you donate $20, then that's a great way to show that you support this.
Yep.
And by the way, then when Jono has meetings with various legislators. He's like, hey, we've got this big a mailing list. We've got this many donors. Like, if that's a very big number, then everyone will be like, ooh, this is like an interest group I need to reckon with. So go to the mailing list. It's the easiest thing in the world. And then donate $5 if 20 is too rich for your blood. It's totally cool. Like, in many ways, it's more about the show of support than it is the dollars.
Right. Yeah, because if we can put together a giant list of folks, and I mean, we have petitions, but being able to say, however many people are behind this, and that can actually move voters in different regions.
Right.
That's how you get the politicians to listen.
This podcast is sponsored by Helix Sleep. It's getting cold outside. You're spending more time indoors. Maybe you have some family members who are coming to stay with you. This is a fantastic time to have a better mattress. They can sleep on it and be impressed. It means that you're thoughtful, you made it, you invested in something that they can sleep on, or maybe you just sleep on it and you give them the air mattress, whatever. We've been using Helix Sleep mattresses for a number of years now, and it has been a game changer. I got the Ultra Dawn Firm mattress because that's the kind of support I need. And if you won't believe me, they have a 120-night sleep trial and limited lifetime warranty. 120 nights is a long time. Go to helixsleep.com/yang for 27% off site-wide, exclusive for listeners of the Andrew Yang podcast. That's helixsleep.com/yang for 27% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/yang. So you and I spent time together at a mental health conference in New York, like a number of weeks back. So yeah, like what does your movement building look like? Do you show up to mental health conferences, then like get people excited?
Yeah, so we're trying to mainstream the messaging around a mental health civil rights bill predominantly. And the lesson there, we're learning from previous social movements in the past that have been successful. So if you look at women's suffrage, civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s, or marriage equality most recently, part of the reason they were successful was because they had one message or one piece of legislation they were either trying to pass or overturn in the case of marriage equality. And simplifying the message down for the general public is the key. So what we want to do, and the way our operations are working, is that we're trying to get the word out, going on podcasts, talking with people like yourself, but then also just getting the general public to know that there is such a thing as a mental health civil rights bill in circulation right now. And we're trying to get legislators on board, and we're trying to get folks to support it.
Have you gotten any legislators on board?
Not to date, no.
Have you gotten meetings with said legislators?
Nope.
Well, geez, I mean, there's a lot of room for growth.
Yep.
I'll put you in touch with some folks in D.C. I mean, like, at a minimum, some people should take meetings, and after they take meetings, they'll get excited.
Yeah. And when we look at recent history too, I mean, in 2008, Patrick Kennedy passed a Mental Health Parity Act.
By the way, the first legislator who runs toward this and embraces it is going to get all this juice.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's totally untapped too politically.
It's wild. I mean, it's 88%.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm already counting my chickens.
Yeah. Right.
But you can see it very clearly. You can see the vision.
Yeah. No, and then the other thing too is that it doesn't matter if you're in a red state or a blue state.
Either. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
It does not discriminate. And then you have rural areas that are hit worse than urban areas because of isolation. You have youth, and everyone cares about kids. You have veterans. Everyone wants to support the troops. I mean, it's as close to a perfect bipartisan issue as you could construct.
Why didn't it happen already? Maybe we can make it a tripartisan issue.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Very passionate about mental health. And I'll talk about some like personal stuff, but also Noble Mobile has been sponsoring various mental health organizations. And I will say, like, now I've gotten all the more energized by the fact that the best way for us to get mentally stronger and healthier really is just to put the phone down more often.
Yeah.
The average American picks up your phone maybe 100 times or more per day. You don't really think about it. And by the way, like I'm not saying I'm any different in that, like I'm at 100 plus. Picking up. Noble Mobile users are using 17% less screen time in month 2 or month 3 as opposed to month 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to folks like, look, we're pretty simple. If you measure it and you reward me for something, I'm more likely to do more
Right.
of it. And if, and so in this case, like putting my phone down gets rewarded. So like I behave better.
Yeah. And you guys are just flipping the incentive on its ear, because right now when kids are going on their phone, they're rewarded by looking at social media and getting the dopamine hit. But if you can reverse that and say, hey, you get rewarded when you put your phone down.
You have a very deep personal relationship through your father's passing. Do you yourself have any like experience or struggles? And it's totally cool. By the way, there's one thing I wanted to say too. If someone just says like no, totally fine, because like one of the dynamics you don't want to do is being like, oh, like, let's have a competition as to like who's been through the ringer more. You don't want that. But it sounds like you might have as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of it is genetic. So I've been dealing with depression my entire adult life. I was diagnosed at 17, and fortunately for me, it's never gotten to a point of suicidal ideations, but it very easily could. I think it's just a luck of the draw with the variety of depression that I have.
I have friends who are also depressive.
Sure.
And they start like noticing, but like it's almost like you can, when you talk about stage 4, like you can kind of identify like, oh, like this is stage 1 or stage 2 where like I'm having trouble getting out of bed, or I'm not getting joy from certain things that I enjoy. Is that like your experience?
Yeah. So one of the things that we also want to accomplish with what the work that we're doing is getting people to have these conversations so that you can identify when you are trending the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Let's say, right? But yeah, it can start with, I mean, for me, it's when I stop working out, I know that there's a problem.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah.
And then that's compounding, right? Because exercise obviously is good for you, but then you eliminate that. And then I'm finding myself saying no to more invitations. I don't want to see friends. And then you get isolated, and it's a very, very slippery slope. Yeah. So being able to head that off and start to implement certain things the same way we might be very disciplined taking a vitamin for our physical health, we have to figure out and identify for ourselves what are those daily activities, because you're not going to fix all mental health by just working out. That's not going to cure all of it, but there are tangible,
it's like a countermeasure.
Yeah.
Or the worst case, a survival mechanism. Like one of the saddest points of my adolescence, I guess late adolescence. So college girlfriend leaves me for another guy, and I vividly remember just not wanting to get out of bed.
Yeah.
It's being really sad. And I said to myself at the time, I was like, just get to the gym. Just so when you go to sleep tonight, you'll think I did something that day. And it's not like they were great workouts. I'd go and I'd just sort of like half-heartedly do stuff. But that's like it was like a coping mechanism.
Yeah. No, and then just getting out and talking with people too has been shown to be really, really powerful. And I think that's part of the issue when we talk about why has mental health gotten so bad in this country with the advancements of technology. It's eliminating all those little connections that we have during the day. So instead of me going to a restaurant and ordering food and even having just a brief dialogue with someone, I can just order it on my phone. I don't have to see a human for weeks if I don't want to with the phone. And so you look at the fact that humans are social creatures by nature, and then you start eliminating that with tech. I mean, yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
I'm not much of a cook. I enjoy getting my meals. It takes a lot of consideration, and I don't like to think very much. There are a number of things I don't like to do. And when you get a Factor meal, you know it's going to be tasty, healthy. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready to eat. Just heat them up in a few minutes, and you will be eating fresh, healthy food in no time. My favorite is the horseradish encrusted chicken. And I have to say, like, you can tell the meals are healthy even as they taste great. You know that sweet spot? That's what these meals hit. Get started at factormeals.com/yang50off and use code yang50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code yang50off at factormeals.com/yang50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/yang50off. So I've been reflecting a little bit on this, Jono, where I think people can tell from my description. It's like as a kid, I got depressed sometimes. I don't think I've ever been clinically depressed. I've never been diagnosed. I've never been clinically depressed in that, like, I talk to people who have been depressed and they describe it in a way where I'm like, I don't think I've been there. Like the darkness has never gotten to that point. But brooding, angsty, not want to go to school, not want to get up in the morning, like those things, yes. Like my 20s were not great because I had these entrepreneurial failures. And being an entrepreneur, we can talk about that too, because it seems like you and I might have this in common. Being an entrepreneur, wow, it can be very, very isolating. It's always stressful. And you kind of have to put on a brave face all the time, because if someone's like, hey, how's the company going? And you're like, oh, it's terrible. It's like, I'm not going to buy from you. I'm not going to invest in you. I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to do this stuff. So you pretty much have to be like, hey, it's great. Like, and here are the three things I'm most excited about.
Right.
And so one of the things I recommend for entrepreneurs is like have some people you can keep it real with. Yeah. Often other entrepreneurs, because they're in the same boat.
Right. Yeah, no, there was there needs to be more support groups for entrepreneurs, and there are actually starting to be mental health nonprofits that are focused specifically on entrepreneurs and folks starting businesses, because the pressure and then the hustle culture that we're in, right? Yeah. All of it goes against every bit of advice your doctor would give you in terms of what you need to do to take care of yourself. You need to sleep more, you need to eat better, you need to exercise, you need to see more friends. And if you think that your path to success is just to grind 80 hours a week and not have time for anything else, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, but when I do think about the darkest times of my life, though, Jono, I do think about like that time in college, time when I was younger. Thinking about it, it's interesting. Huge believer in people seeking help. In my case, like, I think I've just been very, very fortunate over the last number of years, despite the fact that I've been in very, very stressful environments. Obviously, I mean, like running for office, very stressful. Running a business, stressful. I will say even being on national TV used to stress me the fuck out. Yeah. Like the first time, you're on, have you done one of these cable news hits or anything?
No.
Oh yeah, it's in your future.
Okay.
The first time though,
you're really selling it right now, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean I hated it for a long time. I think people know. I mean I've written about this, and now I've gotten so many reps in where it's just like my wife will joke. I mean sometimes will I actually have sweatpants on or shorts on or whatever? It's like I will. I'll be like that guy who's just like looking like this. I also think like things have changed post-COVID, because we've all Zoomed so many times that it might feel more similar to that. Yeah. But pre-COVID, like first time I was on TV, your adrenaline pumps, your blood pressure spikes. It takes you 20 minutes to fully relax. Like afterwards, it was that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you always came off super calm in the debates. I enjoyed them.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Would love for folks to get behind you and the Good Life movement. Well, you've already said how, go to goodlifemovement.org, join the mailing list, maybe donate $5 or $10. If someone wants to go harder than that, like is there some other attachment of their local committees or their roles?
Email me directly, Jono, Jono, at goodlifemovement.org. And I'd be happy to talk with you, because right now the operations, it's nascent, it's small. We're trying to get funding, we're trying to get the team in place, we're trying to get policy and operations and a whole host of other things. So if there are folks with political experience or just lived experience with mental health, which again is
everybody,
most of us, there's definitely opportunity to take action. And I found that to be really rewarding in the wake of my father's death, is being able to come out every day and do this work feels like the right thing to be doing with the energy. Because I remember thinking to myself, okay, my father's died by suicide. That's a fact now. There's nothing I can do about that, and that's going to be part of my life. But what do I want to do with it? And being able to put energy into work like this is super positive. Yeah.
It is super positive. Where do you live physically, Jono? So people could, like, if they're in that vicinity, because as you can tell, one of the things we're big fans of, proponents of, is like actually getting together in real life.
Yeah. Boulder, Colorado.
Wow, that's a very positive place for those of you guys who haven't been.
So I moved out there in 2017, and talk about a change for mental health for the better. I'm from Chicago. I love Chicago. I will always love Chicago, but when you can find a place where you can get out into nature, you got sunny days more than the state of Florida does, and it's all good. Yeah.
I am so pumped for your work, for the potential. I actually have a vision of the Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness bill being signed into law. You're there. I'm there. Some people are listening to this right now are there. A bunch of politicians will be glad to take credit. Will be there.
Yeah.
But most importantly, will actually save people's lives, families, brains, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters. Congratulations on doing this work, on taking it on. It's so needed, and it's so obvious that this cause is going to win.
Yeah, I think so. And I appreciate it.